the plasma dragon, living some time. Living some time. You don't have to say a word. You can love other people. Hang out on the line. Say it.
Working. Good evening. It's 7:55 p.m. Eastern. So I don't have my monitor on, but I do see that the microphone's working. So let me know if you can hear me okay. Hope everybody's doing great tonight. Another session over here with TakeBackSpace. Amazing conjunction tonight of Saturn, Jupiter, and the Moon. Jupiter and Saturn are already starting to set, so we're going to have a lot of aberration. But here I got Jupiter with 3 moons showing. Callisto's hidden behind Jupiter at this point, but at the left it's Io, Ganymede, and then on the right that's Europa. So just give me a thumbs in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me talking. It says all good, all good. It says what's up to the people in the chat: Jared, Kimmy, Basic, Nicholas, Abu Said Bayo, Abu Said. What's up, Fantasy Ecstasy, and who else? Debbie Carson. Welcome all. All right, so I'm going to do a quick hop between the planets. Quickly hit up some Saturn, and then get back to the Moon for a little bit. it'll be a quick show tonight, but then the next few nights, as I have more and more time, be able to show these beautiful conjunctions. Yesterday was unbelievable as well. And Paul Soika, what's happening? Cool. So volume is, let me know if the volume of the voice is good compared to the audio. And here, I'll play us a song right here. Get into the groove. What's up, everyone? Just getting back here to the moon. Saturn and Jupiter are setting rather quickly tonight, so just going through it. Moon's looking amazing. Just getting a little bit of footage, and then actually I'll try and even get some of the dark side, or the umbral side. How's everybody doing? What's up, Anthony? And what's up, Genghis Khan? Welcome. Good to see everybody. Hope you're feeling good tonight. Got some chacks over here. And view our moon. Mare Crisium on the right corner. Easily viewable a hexagon. If you ever wonder why they say circular craters on the moon, you can see here that they're really not circular. You got strings of hexagonal craters all laid out in the same geometric form fractally throughout. Just going to ride here for a little bit, and then maybe we'll do a little bit of sketching on top of this. It's been a while since I did that. Alright, get this track going.
Inside your yourself, apparitions that we bleed through. Every fear, your open wide soul modulation. You just come feel this ride so high, your love I'm craving. But I can't see it till you.
Back here, got rid of the focal reducer. We're gonna check out some jupes.
Sleepless peace on and on. My dreams are made to feel so tiny. Sleepless peace on and on. My dreams are made to dream so high. Sleepless peace on and on. My dreams are made to feel so tiny. So of the moon, they said I'm dead. Until you know my dream, as none of us will always be waiting for them to wake up eternally. Let's get pushing on up this burn. Sleepless beneath the sun. My dreams are made of feel so tiny. Sleepless beneath the sun. My guilt are made of dreams so high. Sleepless beneath the sun. My dreams are made of feel so tiny. Sleepless beneath the sun.
Alright, nice little shot of Jupiter before it sets. We got 3 moons. Callisto is on the right of Jupiter. It would be between Europa, but I think it's either behind or in front of Jupiter. Couldn't see it in the close-up, but this is still looking great. I'm just keeping an eye on the scope. It's kind of wobbly on the steps right now, but super cool that we get to see this. Like Warbeast is saying in the chat, it's absolutely unbelievable that we can see this far and this clearly, and at the same time think about how Saturn, Jupiter, and the Moon are at such different distances, and yet they all come into focus at the same time, at the same focal point, which that in and of itself kind of proves, at least to me, the fact that there are these shells of plasma where you have things that come to a point and then expand, and things that go to the next shell layer and they condense, rarefaction, and compression, which would answer why the light coming from space, or at least radiating in the ether around us, is viewed on this one point, this focal point. And so that to me is profound as well. Let's keep going with the tunes here, and I'm just gonna get us to Saturn a little bit. See this close-up shot. Got rid of the focal reducer, and that kind of gives us a little bit more detail here. It was cold, now it's hot. Let's play some funky chill grooves here. So Jupiter, I think, is gone for us tonight. We got a pretty decent shot of it. I think tomorrow, if I stream, we'll get an even better shot. I'll set up. It's already set up, so get on. This took me like 30 minutes to set up. So we're looking at Saturn here with the 8-inch scope. I dropped in the link in the chat so you can see exactly what it is. And we got the Sony Alpha 6500 camera pushing out the 4K feed. So remember to hit 4K if you're not seeing it at that level. Got a lot of fringing. That's what the the red, kind of orange and blue glow is. Not only is Saturn low against the horizon, which causes the diffraction, but also this is what happens with spectral shifts as they radiate through different elemental hierarchies, and they cause this kind of fringing effect. As the planets and the moon stay up on their apogees, you can see less and less of this. But right next to the horizon, that's why when you see shots of Venus, it tends to look so bright and so blue and red. So a little bit of Saturn here, just staying on the close shot, and jam some. Which track should I play? Let me know if you have any requests. I think this one is good for a bit. Yo, what's up, Cognition? Welcome. all right. Hopping in here to chat about this 21st of December thing. So I'm being a little glib in the chat, but I'll explain my thoughts here. We're still looking at some nice Saturn, not too bad on the 8-inch. Saying what's up to Nature Man, and shout outs to Warbeast's 1-month-old watching TBS, and Stephen Aman. Don't miss the Great Conjunction. I will really try not to unless it's raining, but otherwise I'm gonna be streaming that night for sure. So let's talk about what's gonna go on. So there's just here I got even Stellarium open, and you can go and get Stellarium for yourselves, and then just plug it in, put your location, and then highlight Jupiter or Saturn or the Moon even, but probably Jupiter, and then flash forward. What is it? We're November 19th. Just double click a bunch on the fast forward button. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to be able to see that night. So it'll be December 21st. So there are going to be a lot of videos on YouTube and everywhere all about like how it's the end of the world and or it's the second coming or the next coming or some sort of cycle thing. But there's some truth in all of that to some degree, but I don't think there's going to be any catastrophes. Although there could be earthquakes associated with planets being close to one another affecting the field in that way. So never rule out anything, but I feel like it'll pass like another day and people won't really pay attention to it. The reason I say that is because for the since I started doing this, here we go, December 21st, just rewinding a little bit here. So there'll be the moon. So I first got into TakeBackSpace because there was a blood moon, like a third blood moon in 2015. And everyone's like, that's it, end of the world, September 24th. And that didn't happen. And we'd gone through the whole Mayan calendar thing. And I'd kind of lived through like Y2K and all those weird things since the early 2000s on. We've lived through all these different weird catastrophes in a way that all seem to reconcile and kind of go by, and then people start forgetting about them. So I think this will kind of go by like any other day, but for people like us who pay attention, it's going to be really interesting. What happened here? Did I lose the picture? Huh. Did I let it drift too much? There we go. Oh, I had it zoomed in, so. It's like, where did Saturn go? Yeah, Saturn ran away. Sorry, Jedi Princess. I was just so focused on talking in Stellarium. So Stellarium on 12/21, you got Jupiter. I feel like it's just Jupiter and Saturn will be very close that night. Yeah, very, very close. So within like one camera frame, probably we can get Jupiter and Saturn. Like the same way we're seeing Saturn right now, but the wide shot, we'd probably be able to get Saturn and Jupiter in the same frame, which is unbelievable. Stop breaking my screen. Okay, so that's what we're going to be able to see, as well as the moon will be at 50% illuminated, 49.9, and right overhead due south. This is at 6:30 Eastern time. So 6:30 Eastern time, Saturn, Jupiter, and let's see what the altitude's going to be. Altitude will be 14 degrees. And if I could do a side by side, I would tell you I think this is actually Saturn at about 15 degrees right now, what we're seeing. Actually, what I lost. Come back, Saturn. Come back. Damn it. Doing this blind. There we go. There we go. Yeah, the drift is harsh. It's harsh. On the staircase, the scope is always wobbling, so the tracking is just really awful. Okay, so 6:36 p.m. Eastern, Saturn, Jupiter at 15 degrees, and in the same camera frame. You got the moon at 50% illuminated, waxing. You've got Mars basically due southeast, way overhead, so Mars is going to be visible, followed by Uranus, followed by Aldebaran and Orion and Rigel. And is Pluto also visible? Or like in the sky with us? I think that's it. I think the other planets, let's see if more planets come up. I lost Saturn again. There we go. All right, so that's what I found out. That's what I researched that a little bit at the beginning of the year. So that's the plan. The plan is to set up and do this basic setup here that we're looking at Saturn through that night, and hopefully it'll be clear skies and nothing will happen, but we'll see Saturn and Jupiter in the same frame, which will be a pretty one-time experience probably for most of us. Cool. And then after they set, we'll see the moon and then probably Mars. Now the thing with Mars is that Mars is like so far overhead, I almost don't even think, like I'd have to really move the scope down and put my diagonal in and use, I don't know. Seeing Mars is kind of tough right now because of its elliptical traversal, its angle. But it's precession, that's what I was looking for. All right, little break. Getting dry mouth here. I'm gonna drink some, yeah, because I'm drinking coffee, of course, at 8:30. Let's put on some tunes. It feels like Friday, but it's almost Friday. It's almost Friday.
take a good look. It's a simulation. Wake up in solitary. Wake up, it's imaginary. And don't you know your life is worth more than what you have. Take a good look. It's a simulation. Wake up in solitary. Wake up, it's imaginary. Man, don't you know your life is worth more than Catch me if you fall, catch me if you're low. The loot goes high and up, as fast as you can go. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low.
All right, that was a little catch. Talk a little bit about electric scarring and or how the surface of the moon could have formed. So it's really not kind of this determined thing by me. Other people have speculated that the moon might have not been cratered by impact, by the great impacts that are thought to have formed the moon billions of years ago. So Brian J. Ford, Immanuel Velikovsky, um, Ralph Jurgens have written different papers throughout the years, maybe over the last 80 years, probably in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and sometime I think in the 70s as well, about how electric scarification or electric arc discharge, like the Thunderbolts Project talks about, could have formed the features on the moon. And the reason I think that, or at least I think that it's worth looking into, is because there's this really strange understanding, or at least strange narrative about the moon, where people constantly say that the moon's craters are circular, even though Thunderbolts Project has a series that's constantly with a through line of the moon, right, where they talk about electric scarring and they talk about the history of the moon. So they have discussed this, but very often they'll talk about Schroeder's Valley, for example, in Aristarchus. Very rarely, almost never, as far as I've found, has anyone really looked at Mare Crisium, which is center to the shot right now. And I can draw on that. Also, let me say hi to everybody who showed up. Mary, nice to see you. Great sensing, great spidey sense, catchy sense. And Astrolabium, what's going on? And Yo Pops, lol. And whoever else is hanging out with us tonight. Another show, another incredible moon. Lucky to be able to see it, share it, talk about it. All right, so Mare Crisium right here. Look at this shape. Why is this not like a huge deal, and why is it not resolved, as like a major moon thing? There's so many ideas about the moon, so many articles about water on the moon or not water, or going to the moon base or not moon base. And then you have this kind of hyper-nationalistic Apollo narrative as well. And even if Apollo, real, not real, doesn't matter. That's not true. It does matter. But the point is here, how does this form? And for me, this seems to abide by these principles of magnetic field lines, or the hyperbolic, hypertropoid, and toroidal shape of reality, which is the torus, infinity sign, or symmetrical radiation from the center. And then you have the hypertrochoid, the hourglass shape, which is a pinched tube. It's just a segment right here, but really you got a Birkeland filament, which are basically electric roots going through everything in reality. So not just craters, but cells, human body, every particle, every being, every set of beings, every set of principles, words, you name it, has this geometry association. So from the side view, it looks like this. And this is where the bridge of the eye, the bridge of the nose comes from. And these are why eyes are formed along a Birkeland filament, and a nose symmetrical around a Birkeland filament torus. And you have rarefaction, compression, and then you have rarefaction and compression, and then you have hexagons, and that's how faces are formed. It's how animals are formed, it's how butterflies are formed, it's how sugar crystals are formed, it's how words are formed. All our language, all our thoughts are formed around this exact same geometry, fractally. So the golden ratio in the Fibonacci sequence is the secondary. I mean, you can look at this geometry from a lot of angles, but if you look at it from the top view, so the top view of this is basically you're looking down a tube or a funnel. So it's really it's what we see at the poles of Saturn and Jupiter's. So you'll see a circle kind of emanating outwards from the center, and then it'll reach boundaries. It'll create boundaries with the second sphere around it. And so each of these is radiating outwards. I'm trying to draw all this, but essentially if you see bubbles forming in a sink, or if you ever do a pour over coffee, you'll see the bubbles forming, and you'll see there are large bubbles and then there are small, come on screen, small bubbles connecting them. And this is really, not only is it a version of the actually, if it's not just kind of like reality, it actually is what reality looks like from above. Which is why when you see those kind of zoomed in electron microscope images of mitochondria, it looks like cities and parks and pathways. And same thing when you zoom out of Earth with a satellite view, it looks like little ants and shapes. So the top-down view of this toroidal hyperboloid, excuse me, is two spirals. So side view, the spiral emanating outwards, that's the Fibonacci spiral. And then it goes this way outwardly here. And you've got the toroidal flux over here. And these are the layers of plasma that store information, memory, time, and consciousness as we know it is the interaction between the plasmoid and the shell. And when you die, the shell collapses and returns into the ether. When you're born, the shell is constantly being made by the interaction of the oscillation of the center plasmoid. We're all connected via filaments, families, people, cultures. Our genetic heredity is passed down through these physical plasma roots. And to further hammer home the point, let's pull up a couple of images from my library and I'll overlay it. Luckily we have this killer view, but you can see even above Mare Crisium you have hexagons emanating in a what looks like a spiral nebula. I'll draw it for you. I'll sketch it for you. If you follow it upwards, you'll see it kind of trails like this, and you get an S curve, like a wave. And so like the electrical arc, to finish up that point, you have electrical scarification from Mars, let's say, or Venus or Earth maybe, as Earth captured the moon or came close to the moon. You have these giant Birkeland lightning blasts like Sprite level. And as it's moving across the surface, it's moving along these field currents, and it's creating these bubbles. These bubbles expand circularly, spherically, until they meet boundary layers, creating hexagons. And then they settle, and we have an imprint of what happened. And so why it's so crazy and why I've moved away from all these like other conspiracies is because it's like right in front of us. The real conspiracy is why does no one talk about how lunar geology could teach us so much, and it's not difficult. And also we don't use the big scopes to look at the moon, and we have no national dialogue or debate about the moon. It's completely an unknown thing to most people. It's full like rhetorical narrative. So that's a little bit about the moon and plasma. But yeah, what I want to pull up is an image here really quick. Say what's up to everybody joining. See Andy Cowley and Morning Star. What's happening? Welcome. All right, where's my image viewer? Moon thumbnail. And in my moon thumbnail, okay. So yeah, I picked up where I left off 6 months ago. So here we go. This is an image that I made, and I'll give. So it's hard to kind of give credit because I saw this image my whole life in a way, but really, if you put it all together, there are a lot of different people who have discovered that this is this kind of inherent fractal shape in reality. All things emanate and move along these field lines, and if you look at it properly, this to me, this shape, so again, this is the side view, and then from the top down view, it spirals. Golden ratio, golden mean. There are people who think that the periodic table is the emanation of the same sort of vibration moving up and down these spirals, creating different states of elements. So that's the entire periodic table can exist as an emanation through this Birkeland filament spiral. This shape also shows why craters exist the way they do, shows how people can have, so at the center of this you can have humans, and that would be our the morphogenetic field that Rupert Sheldrake talks about. It's the biofield that Eileen McCusick talks about. It's the conjugate geometry that Ken Wheeler talks about and Eric Dollard. It's the stuff that Tesla knew, stuff that is probably hidden from the population for some number of reasons. So this is one of the geometries, and the hexagons form because the initial shape is circular, or as circular as possible, because it's the strongest shape. And then as circles expand and meet each other, they create more platonic solids like dodecahedrons, pentagons, hexagons, etc., etc. At the same time, further, the consciousness aspect of it is something that Rupert Sheldrake talks about, Terence McKenna was talking about, but they never explained it in terms of physical plasma field. So this field geometry is like a real field, actually is a real thing. It's not just math, and it's not just fancy pictures, because if I'll show you here, unfortunately the moon is going to set rather soon. You can see the trees waving, but Mare Crisium follows this exact geometry shape. It's crazy. I mean, this is really fundamentally what's going on. and people don't really ask this question. They're always curious about moon bases and aliens and all sorts of conspiracies, and I don't blame them because I was like that. I'm still like that, but I think overriding all of that is this fundamental relationship between this sacred fundamental geometric set and plasma versus we don't know anything, or it's too grand to know anything, or dark universe, dark matter, uh, deep math, numbers that no one can count, and taking space away from people. It's like I'm being played off stage by the moon right now. But let me see if I can pull up a couple more pictures before I call it. All right, let's look at our snow leopard. And where's paint? Yeah, so snow leopard has butterfly. Where is it? This is the Z-pinch. Those are the two hexagons back to back. That's the chalice, the hypertrochoid, the tube, the Birkeland filament. The eyes are formed at different points of a similar type of shape, but that's expanded and this is contracted. And so the same thing happens with humans, like the ears. They follow similar patterns. And you can do this with almost everything. Not almost everything, with everything. Let's pull up another image here. NSFW, pelvis. Pelvis, though, same thing. Same exact thing. Pelvis even looks like ears. It looks like an elephant. It looks like a stingray. This is not pareidolia or just coincidental. That's what popular science writes it off to be. This, oh, you're just seeing things. You're just seeing things. But it's like that because we're grown along Birkeland filaments, along the same principles as everything in the universe. So we see everything in ourselves, which answers the creation myth. All right, I've talked enough. Y'all can continue this research on your own. I'm gonna go get some dinner, and or I'm gonna let this moon set with us, watch and listen to a couple more tunes, and then get dinner. But and I'll read some of your questions and thoughts as well. Chris Kelly, what's happening? Nature Man says platonic solids. I think the hexagon is one that can translate to higher dimensions, fourth and fifth. Really, I think the simplest way to see it is, like I said, bubbles in the sink, and you can just count the sides of each of the different spheres that emerges, right? You'll see at large scales, you'll get hexagons and pentagons, and a lot of the times you'll actually get a hexagon side by side with an elongated pentagon, which is that kind of phi ratio of balance of forces. It's not exactly 50-50 down the center of every plasmoid. Yo, Super Must See TV, what's happening? Mary says, is there a specific chemical component that creates the hexagon, like H2O maybe? Well, I mean, I think fundamentally the idea, or at least that I think is mostly correct, is that it's one thing, right? It's this plasma substance, and then there's a shape. And the shape informs what the plasma does, and the plasma manifests as water, carbon, hydrogen, etc. Matter as we see it. It answers the great question, or the great question, the really terrible question, but the grand question that what's dark matter or cold dark matter? What's dark energy? What is matter? Matter is condensed plasma along Birkeland filaments. What is dark matter? Everything around it. Relational quality, words to a page. Relational quality, the number of good people on Earth versus the number of bad people. There's constantly this relational quality to things on Earth, and the same thing with geometry, and therefore culture and consciousness manifests as the things that we see outside of us. the other thing people don't know, or I don't think people think about, is if you look at your hand, nobody really, or at least when I was that I've heard, can answer why our hands look a certain way. Why down the center of your hand you have these two really thick lines that look like they're kind of curved away from each other. If you look at this geometry and you look at your hand, the palm of your right hand, you'll see these these two lines that look almost identical to the lines between Mare Crisium and Mare Tranquillitatis. And so how does your hand look just like the surface of the moon if it's not the exact actual same geometry? There's no reason, and think about it, that nobody even discusses this. And there are other things, but as the moon waxes and gets towards full, all these features that start getting revealed, like the two parallel rays that come out of Tycho or that point towards Tycho that don't really line up with Tycho, like how did those appear? When you look at Aristarchus, how did Aristarchus plateau appear? Why is it a perfect diamond? It's like a perfect diamond. It's crazy. And then if you look at Aristarchus, you look at Schroeder's Valley, and on the videos that I've made, and then if you go to NASA JPL and you look at how the moon was formed video, you'll see that they yada yada like most of the big features like Copernicus and Aristarchus by just like throwing like a series of meteor like great bombardment periods, the late heavy bombardment period, and Aristarchus just appears. And I'm like, what's I mean that talk about like very like weird Twilight Zone. Um, Amateur astronomer in their backyard, making you seeing Aristarchus, Mare Crisium, Tycho up close, seeing these incredible geometric forms that are persistent. For 100 years, people have questioned like how those were formed, and yet we have JPL has this 4 million view video, from 10 years ago that shows this animation of how it happens, and it just doesn't make any sense as to how these features were formed. A lot of the times, if you see the forums or you see people even trying to ask those questions, you'll get shot down immediately, and people will think you're crazy because you're asking questions about this long solved dilemma, like how the moon was formed. But really, there is no public theory that's correct right now. Now, where the moon came from, like what root filament it was born on, what was it in our skies 2,000 years ago? What's tidal locking? There's so many good questions to ask, but at first you have to kind of get a grasp on why the moon looks a certain way, right? That's like the most obvious thing. Let's see. What's on the dinner menu tonight? I don't know. I'm probably going to order something because I'm out of food. Do hexagons suggest grand design or natural order? I think they do. I mean, I don't think that they're different from us. So this is actually a great question. So you'll hear this a lot. You'll see that people are either apprehensive or submissive to this idea that there is a creature somehow, a god, that is more something than you, than the self. Whether it's an old white man with a beard, whether it's an avian alien, blue alien, whether it's like an Illuminati member, whether it's a government agent, they are all in this geometric shape. Ultimately, they all have eyes, they all have limbs, right? They all have brains. If they can harm you and you can see them, they exist in the same geometric reality that we do. So for me, while pain is scary, or you can be apprehensive of feeling pain, there's almost no reason to ever fear any different creature, because anything you can perceive is the self, ultimately, because you're in the same exact image of whatever creature you might be afraid of, or might idolize, or might worship, or might think created humankind. Let's say it was, or what's the other one? Nibiru, right? Nibiru and the 14-foot tall, what are they, the Nephilim, right? Let's say it's Nephilim robots that look like the creatures from some movie you've seen. And they hybrid race like reptilian humans who are slaves and who are like Matrix movies or Jupiter Ascending, those in real life. Okay, let's say it's that. It still doesn't change that they have limbs and eyes and symmetry and hexagons. Therefore, they're of the same genetic or geometric makeup as humans or as anything, as plants, animals. So ultimately, good and evil, bad and good, that's the same thing, are in the same form. So the grand design answer is yes, there is grand design, there's great geometry, but the physics of it, the fact that you're of this grand design means that you made this grand design. Therefore, you are the great designer of it all, ultimately. There is no higher power or higher self or different creature that could have made humans. Now, that's not true. There could be that, but there ultimately anything you can perceive is only stuff that we can perceive, right? And all those other things really don't make sense if we're in this grand image. And I'll give you the proof right here, which is my final point. Is what if you, and this helped me a lot, which is listening to Alan Watts. But besides listening to Alan Watts, he asked this great question, which is, um, did you make your own body? Did you grow your eyeballs? Did you grow your own limbs? Did you birth yourself? Who brought you into this world? We say we came into this world, or our parents brought us in, but ultimately you, actually the self, grows your own body, grows limbs, grows hair, destroys limbs, and then grows a bit more of it. So the self is ultimately as powerful as the God you perceive. Um, Whether or not you believe that or reflect upon that is something else, but in physical actuality right now, you're doing stuff like growing parts of your body without knowing how you do it. And that begs the question that if that's the case, then you likely borned yourself and you'd likely kill yourself, and we likely do have a lot more control than we think we actually do. That seems to be more of what the grander conspiracy seems like, or and then ultimately it's a conspiracy because you yourself are fooling yourself and saying that no, I'm weak, it's happening to me, I don't have any of the power, and you're trying your damnedest to prove that you don't have power and that you can't do things. But in fact, physical reality shows that you're already doing that because your parents didn't weave your body, and no plants show up in the middle of the night and like extend your bones. So you must do all of this. And if you do it, then I think yeah, I mean, I'm stealing literally or poorly paraphrasing Alan Watts here, but if you mix that with plasma theory and all the people I was mentioning earlier, please go out there and check out Rupert Sheldrake, Eileen McCusick, Dr. Jerry Tennant, Ken Wheeler, Eric Dollard, Emmanuel Velikovsky, Halton Arp, Wal Thornhill, Thal Warnhill, Thunderbolts, etc. These guys talk about little aspects of this giant cosmological puzzle. Ultimately, it all really does fit together, and it doesn't mean that we're saved. It just means that both good and bad, we do it all. All right. That's it for tonight. John Pershing showing up says, so Saturn, Jupiter lineup. Yep, I got Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon tonight. Moon just set, so you can zoom back to the beginning of the video to check those out. I didn't get it in one shot because I didn't have that set up, but still, we got to see the planets and the moon tonight. A lot of great geometric connections. So yeah, I went off on a tangent there talking about this grand unified theory that I don't want to say that I came up with, but I think I've put a lot of pieces together for myself, and seeing it on the moon and seeing it in plants and animals and seeing it on my own hand. I don't need any, peer review paper or doctor, whatever, physics to tell me that, well, you're wrong about that. It's pretty obvious visually, and it makes sense that this information would be hidden from, if companies had access to the level of technology this grants, it would be hidden from the public, so it makes sense. What's going on, Cyber Sully? All right, a couple more songs here, and yeah, well, don't worry, I have links in the description of my video, and I talk about it all the time, but Rupert Sheldrake, still kicking, 40 years talking about the same thing, talking about the morphogenetic field and, telepathy, how dogs know that their owners are coming home, how people can sense who's calling them. He's done real experiments. Rupert Sheldrake. Eileen McCusick, human biofield, healing with tuning forks, and how memory is stored outside the human body. Ken Wheeler talking about the conjugate geometry, incommensurability, centripetal and centrifugal forces and their interaction creating consciousness, light, and matter, how light doesn't move. Halton Arp talking about redshift and talking about how redshift is not a good determinant of distance in space. Emanuel Velikovsky talking about how catastrophism might have happened a few thousand years ago and our ancestors may have seen a completely different sky. And many others. But, yeah. Did I miss anybody? Rainsong, what's going on? I saw your name at the bottom and then I lost you because I don't know, it just faded. How you doing? Thanks for sharing. Thank you. I very much appreciate everybody's time. Donald Yates, what's going on? It's so funny, like I've said before, this is dark mode, and because all the text is white, it's like so difficult to see. So sorry if I missed anybody, not on purpose. Yeah, please check out those people. I got links in the description if you want to see electric discharge in a laboratory. And it's really the big debate here, or if people want to talk about this, is really like, how was the Grand Canyon formed? Was it formed with two planets interacting and exchanging giant electrical discharge, or was it formed over a long period of time with erosion? And there's a really good debate to be had. So, yeah, Luna went away. They were all pretty low tonight. I caught on. Well, they've been setting early, but tomorrow we'll have a bit more time, and so on and so on. Tonight was fun. I've been wanting to stream, but the weather was crazy for a while. Survived a hurricane. Let's do Electric Blood and close this out. I'll go get some food. I really appreciate everybody's time here.
I've been waiting on the street for days. Don't treat me like a fool. I've been sleeping on the streets for days. Don't treat me so cruel. I've been waiting on the porch for days. Don't treat me like you're cool. I've been waiting on the sea for years. I've been waiting for the secret all along. And you know what I'm saying? Don't you know what soul can sing? Singing about this dream so long for you. I've been dreaming about the song. So long for you, I've been singing about the song. So long for you, I've been dreaming about the one with you. I've been singing about this dream. So long for you, till I see the color of your eyes reflected in the picture I made for you. Oh no, and you know what I'm saying? And you know what soul can sing to me. But you don't
this headset is just like a cheap gaming headset. Tomorrow I'll set up the mic. Alright everybody, have a wonderful night. Thanks so much for hanging out again on these hundreds and hundreds of space shows. I do really appreciate everybody's time, and I'll catch y'all either tomorrow or the night after. Take care, stay wise, stay safe, and stay brave. Peace.
It's got to breathe. I can feel your fire tearing up the street, tearing up the street. You feel like the breeze of my dream. I still breathe 'cause there's something more to see. I can see the wires, the street.